The year was 1988, when the Kurdish people were facing displacing, torture, inhuman treatment, and genocide in such harsh ways, such as smothered them to death with chemical weapons and buried them alive. These acts were part of the wider campaign known as Anfal, in which 10,000 of Kurdish were killed by the former Iraqi regime. The attack on Halabja on 16th of March 1988 was the most notorious act of chemical warfare in modern times. An estimated 5,000 people, mostly women and children, were killed when the Iraqi jets dropped poison gas such as mustard gas and nerve agent on the town. While these barbaric attacks were carried out against Kurdish people, the rest of the world turned the blind eyes, stand by, and witness the evil act to take place, not only against Kurdish people in Halabja, but also against the humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are commemorating the 35th anniversary of chemical weapons attack on the town of Halabja by Saddam Hussein's forces. On behalf of the Kurdish community here in the United Kingdom and on behalf of the UK Kurdish Association, we welcome you all to mark the respect of those innocent lives. Please, can we all observe a minute's silence? Thank you. You may remain seated. We would like to open our ceremony with a speech from the Right Honourable Member of Parliament for Streatham, that is Mr. Bel Ribeiro Adi. Will you attend to the stage? Mrs. Sorry, they haven't. It's all right, at least you attended.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to first extend my thoughts and prayers to all those who were impacted by the Halabja massacre, to those who lost loved ones in the attack, who sustained life-changing injuries, and to those who are still living with the lingering effects of the chemical attack, and to the Kurdish community around the world, and to those who are still feeling its impacts. The Halabja massacre was not an attack against another army or a defensive attack against a threat. It was called a massacre because it was an attack on a civilian populated area, one of the largest chemical weapons attacks directed on civilians in history, killing up to 5,000. Often when we hold commemorative events, they are for events that have happened a long time ago, and those that were directly impacted have since passed. But the Halabja massacre is a relatively recent event in world history, and many of those who survived the attack are still alive today and still remember the horrific events of 1988. Not only do they remember, but they are still experiencing the impacts of the attack, because when chemical weapons are used, the impact of the weapon is not confined to the location and the time where the attack took place. The chemicals spread across the area, and they may linger for many years later, having lasting effects on those in the area that we've seen on the people in Halabja. The importance of remembering these tragedies and recognizing the vile ideology that sought to justify them cannot be understated. Failure to do so risks these tragedies occurring again. Unfortunately, it seems we are failing to learn the lessons of these past. Unfortunately, it seems we are failing to learn the lessons of these past atrocities. As we sit here today, millions of people across the globe are still subjected to targeted campaigns of persecution, violence, and genocide. We have seen time and time again What happens when prejudice, bigotry, xenophobia, and racism are left unchecked and allowed to fester and installed in power? And still today, Kurdish people across the globe continue to be targeted and persecuted. In the 21st century, there have been more than 20 organised attacks on Kurdish people orchestrated by states, militaries, and fanatics. It's crucially important that we proactively condemn the far-right ideologies peddled by regimes seeking to legitimise the heinous acts that we have seen in the past and that we are still witnessing today. So today we remember all of those impacted by the Halabja massacre, not just to honour those who lost their lives or their loved ones, but to remind ourselves that we cannot be complacent, because if we are, we risk these atrocities happening again. So on days like today, when we say never again, we must really mean never again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill, and my apologies for not pronouncing. Now is the time for the floral tributes. Please, when I call your name, attend to lay the memorial flowers. First, Qais Qasim from the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. Kawa Umar Ali from Kurdistan Islamic Union, UK branch. Dr. Diler Haji Umar, Director for Kanga Association. Shilan Astai for Kurdish Democratic Party, UK branch. Dr. Haval Abu Bakr, the Governor of Sulaimani Province. Karwan Jamal Tahir, representative for Kurdistan Regional Government. Dr. Shayan Jaff. Jawhar Hassan, the Iraqi Consultant General. Thank you for all your tributes.
We will now hear a piece from our musician.
We now all here for a piece of harmony. Please, can I call Mr. Darian Harami to present us with a piece of harmony in this event? Thank you.
of people who ran out of their houses to try to escape the gas and then were killed out in the open.
Since that moment, Nasreen Abdul Qadar has been alone in the world. She was only a teenager then. She lost 17 relatives, including her mother, her 2 brothers, her sister. She keeps their pictures with her all the time.
Everyone wants to live, but what kind of life? For us in Halabja, every day is the day of the attack for us. We're wounded, there are scars on our bodies. The pain is still in our hearts, deep down.
No one has ever cleaned out the cellar where her family was gassed. Even 25 years later, the stench of mustard gas is still strong, strong enough to kill small creatures. It makes our eyes weep and our heads ache. No doubt about it, things that come down here, like the cat, the rats and so on, seem to die as a result. Maybe a good idea not to spend too much time down here.
Right, what I'm doing is just putting it in here to try and...
A top British expert on chemical warfare is looking into the lingering danger from gas. He's found low levels of mustard gas in another cellar nearby.
We have a problem around here when they're building new buildings and they dig the foundations, they come across these pockets of mustard gas which in contact with the air then evaporate, and people have died recently doing that.
For now, the Halabja victims still lie buried in a few mass graves. But the British team says it could identify each of the bodies through its DNA, so they could be reburied in the individual graves which now await them, each clearly named. The Kurdistan government wants to demonstrate finally that this was genocide.
It was an attempt, in part or in whole, to eradicate a people, an ethnicity or a group, and that is the definition of genocide, and that is what happened, not just in Halabja but throughout Kurdistan.